天晚上再一次呢是我们 IvyCompass 的 feature。那我们 IvyCompass 的中文呢叫指南针教育。那我们是希望呢把我们的时间呢，花在这样的一个北美这些口碑最好的前藤校招生官，还有一些独立的升学顾问啊。今天晚上 Demi 就是我们一个独立的升学顾问，还有一些跟艺术相关的、跟 film 相关的、跟 photographer 相关的、跟这个 art 相关的、跟 music 相关的这一系列导师的背景。能够帮孩子提高他们背景的，让他们更加有竞争力的啊。当孩子有这方面的需求和这方面的兴趣爱好的时候，我们也把这些资源对接给这样的一些优质的家庭那么同时，我们还因为有 AFI 这样的一个平台，所以我们还提供一些定制化的志愿者机会，还有一些社会影响力、科研research 和一些实习背景。等一会儿，今天我也会介绍一些这个实习的这些项目。所以我们呢是特别看重，不仅仅是帮助那些有可能潜在能够升到藤校的这些孩子们，我们同时也帮助了很多可能他们在这个目标就是top 30、top 40和 top 50 school。依然家庭会投资于这些孩子们，因为它的过程是让孩子们通过这样的一个杠杆，通过这样的一个平台跟老师的连接，因为老师们都比较导师们比较有经验，他们知道怎么样把孩子的优点和优势不但挖掘出来，同时还启发孩子怎么样 thinking deeply。这个最后我发现能够升到这个所谓一级一级升到大藤的孩子，他们都有很深刻的这个思维和 reflection 的这个能力所以这个是我们特别看重的，就是通过这样的一个过程，能够让孩子们在这样的一个 mentor 的一个帮助下面，让孩子更加的有竞争力。那么自然而然，他能力到了，那这些学校也就可以看得出来是他们 future 想更加进一步培养的学生那么我们以往的这些结果呢，你可以看得出来，实际上我们来 IvyCompass 的学生97%都去了 Top 40 School，那相对来讲还是比较优秀的。当然，我个人认为，虽然我们没有 magic，我们不能把一个这个学生可能没有很好的这个自我的这个推动的这个样的学生能够送到一个比较 top 的 school 呢，但是同时呢，我们也能够总体来说，在他原有的基础之上，能让孩子们更加的往上提升一下，提升一下就是让他能够整体的素质能够提升更有这个自主的这个意识。好，那么今年早生的结果很多已经出来了，像12月12号有一些像这个比较早的 Cornell 的呀，还有一些这个REA 的这个耶鲁的呀，还有这个普林斯顿和 Stanford 的都出来了。那我们今天稍微分享一些我们这个early 的 offer 哈，已经有了这些 NYU 的，有的孩子 ED1 就是 NYU 的，有 John Hopkins 的，有 Brown 的，我们也有 Northwestern 的 Notre Dame 的，包括 MIT 的、Cornell 的、UPenn 的、Stanford 哈，我们有 multiple 的学生。比较高兴的包括 MIT 的，都比较高兴的收到了这一些 offer。当然，还有一部分的孩子，可能有的时候的 strategy 可能太高了一点，那么可能有 deferred waiting list 没有关系。那我们的导师再继续帮助他们，最后2个星期的冲刺，把他们剩余的学校的essay 包括他们整个的这个 activity 的这个单子好好的捋一捋，看还有什么 strategy。和最后的这个能够在下面这几个学校能够让他们在 RD 的上面，我们也有这样的结果，在 ED 的时候被 defer 了或被拒了，但是他们在 RD 的时候又有好的结果出来，这个是，所以是一个非常 black box， 就是没有人可以完全100%的知道这个最后的结果，但是我们要尽全力尽一切的可能性的努力。如果您还没有进入我们这样的一个大家庭的话，欢迎您关注我们的公众号。因为我们的团队常常的会写一些非常干货的文章和知识点，分享到这个公众号里面。如果您希望来始终的跟踪我们的这个一些知识的分享的内容的通知的话呢，也欢迎您扫描这个右手边的二维码，能够进入到我们的这个微信群。这样的话，你就不会 miss 到我们不断的在寻找新的资源来给大家带来这些比较好的、负责任的这个导师，包括物理呀、科创包括一些这个research internship 的这一些资源，我们都在不断的往里头增加这些好的导师们来 offer 供大家来选择。那么今天晚上呢，非常的高兴和荣幸，请到了我们特别喜爱的一个导师他也是我们学生家长非常喜爱的，很多比较怎么说呢？比较这个学习很好、很聪明的孩子，有的时候他们不是那么 opening，发现 Demi 他有这个 magic，他就很能够连接这些 我们说的这个学习很好的一些我们的这个中国的小男生，其实都很 smart 啊，但是丹米呢就很知道怎么样跟他们共同的工作，头脑风暴，能够把他们最好的一面展现到最后的这个 application 的 season。那今天晚上的主题呢是 focus on summer program，一年。您知道每一年的10月份、11月份、12月份，实际上这3个月都是应该开始思考和跟导师来讨论，我明年、下一年2025年我应该做些什么。夏校不是随便乱选的，夏校也不是 program 都是 equally important，他们每个都是有不同的重量和分量，有的可以 advance。我们的这个 background 有的时候这个夏校没选好的话，时间浪费了，钱也花了，但是并不一定能够 impact。不是说我们功利，而是我们做事情实际上也要选择既能够帮助我们成长学习，同时还能够帮助到我们下一个目标的，对吧？岂不是更好，对吧？这是个 win-win situation。那今天晚上 Dami 所 focus 的内容呢，第一个，什么是一些含金量比较高的夏校？他们怎么分类的？他们申请的标准是啥？然后对于9年级、11年级。这些孩子们该怎么样合理的规划夏校？同时不要说别人听到别人去参加什么夏校，我们不要跟风，因为每个孩子有自己的 prospect major 和主线主故事，我们一直强调，所以不是所有人觉得去的好的这个夏校跟我们都相关的，我们一定要选择跟我们这个主故事 related 的一些 program 才会有 impact 哈。然后什么样的夏校能够帮助到我们这个 short term 的这个 goal？那么今天晚上呢 ，I'm just opening up for Dami， 大家都知道是芝加哥大学的背景，他自己本身是文科，但 somehow 就有很多的理科生来找到他，因为可能理科生在写文书的时候特别困难。那 Dami 这块面写作是相当厉害，你每次看到他后面是书是越排越满，然后他自己本身的兴趣爱好就是 like to writing and reading. I just amazed how I don't know how many books you can read, Dami. So tonight I'm really happy. Now I want to give the floor to Dami. So can you like share your screen, let me close. And I'm amazed every time watching the book, the wall of the book. I don't know how you find the time. I'm like, oh gosh, that's really amazing. Okay, now the floor is yours. So I know it's
Sure.
wonderful for you information to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Yes. Okay. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So thank you, Sophia, and hi everyone. I hope you're all doing great. It's a busy, crazy season, but it's a very important season for summer program applications. In fact, I think there's generally December is the busiest month when it comes to summer programs, and most rising seniors or 11th graders, 10th graders, 9th graders, they're all thinking about it. So we thought it was a good time to do a little bit of a presentation on this. If you don't know me, I'm Demi. I've been doing college consulting for quite a while, about 13 years or so. And I work primarily with students interested in getting into top 10, 15, 20 schools, I would say. A large majority of my students, I would say, come from STEM backgrounds, but I myself am very much in the opposite side of the spectrum. Very much a storyteller, I would say. As Sophia said, I'm all about like the reading and writing, telling stories and all that. And I apply that a lot into my college consulting style. So I'm all about the storytelling. And so one of the aspects about storytelling that's important is that storytelling is not just about the writing that you do. Yes, the writing is of course very, very important, but it's also the decisions that you make to tell a story. And some of those decisions are, of course, the extracurriculars that a student is, engaging with. And a big part of that can be, and often is summer programs. So today the focus is to talk about, the summer programs that are out there. How do they contribute? Some general idea of how the role that they play and which ones might be interesting to look into. Sort of the whole business behind the summer program phenomenon, which is really a phenomenon. Today, I mean, this year I was shocked when I was looking at the Young Yale Global Scholars numbers and how much they've grown in the past, say, 5-6 years. I remember when they used to have like, 1,000 applicants or so, it was a number that was pretty manageable. And even in their early round, they have 4,500 applicants in their early round, which means in their RD round, they're going to be way more. So summer programs have become this strange boom that is so interesting. So I'm happy to share a little bit of my thoughts on that. So here's a little bit of the agenda for today. So we're going to do a little bit of what we mean with summer programs and what's the difference between summer programs and summer opportunities, because summer programs are one part of the many things that a student could do over the summer. And that's something that I'll go over briefly. That's not the point of this presentation, but I do think it's important to consider that as well. And then I'll basically go over some of the major types of summer programs, what I call the academic and exploration summer programs, the leadership-based summer programs, research-based summer programs, and then in math and writing programs. There are others out there. And there are some, sometimes programs are not, they don't fall under one category only. Like most of the business programs have a little bit of research, have a little bit of leadership, have a little bit of academic. So there are some that don't quite fit these sort of like lockers or boxes that I'm going to talk about. But this gives a general idea of what that is. And there are, of course, others more specialized that I didn't mention. There's some fantastic music summer programs, Tanglewood, BUTI. There's so many different things that I just cannot cover in a presentation like this one. But of course, I'm always open to talk more specifically about a student's background and their interests. Before I do that, though, I like to talk a little bit about sort of like what I call the 6 pillars of top applicants. I feel like these are the 6 things that most strong applicants that are really shooting for like a top 20 school normally have. So we know that GPA and academic rigor are very much filters, right? You have to check those boxes. Of course, there are some exceptions. Of course, nothing is more important than the context, right? So if the student context is that the average SAT score at that school is a 1550, then a 1550 is pretty low, right? So you always have to think about the context of the school that you're applying from. There are all these other things. This is a very generalized, broad, guideline for a student to get a sense of like, am I on the right track or not? So normally meeting all of these things, the 10% of the graduating class is also a big issue. Most schools don't rank. Most schools are not gonna, tell a college where the student ranks. But this is if you have a sense of more or less where the student is, this is important. There are going to be some schools where the top 50% does fantastically. There are going to be some schools where only the top 1% does great. That also, of course, impacts or has an impact. But the role of the summer program here really is not connected to those first 2. It's more than anything connected to the 3rd and the 4th one. So what the summer program will generally give is tools or sort of like more elements for a student to write a compelling and powerful narrative because maybe they engage with a certain program where they learn something special or they did special research that matches their narrative. And more clearly or more effectively, it connects to the 4th one. So clear evidence of passion, right? So if you are somebody who's interested in the intersection between business, economics, data, statistics, and mathematics, as well as sports, if you do Moneyball at Wharton, that would be fantastic, right? So there are certain decisions that you could make in terms of the summer programs that you apply to that will show an evidence of a passion and a clear connection to a particular field. So that's more or less the role that summer programs play within the 6 pillars. In some cases, I will say some summer programs are so sought after, so selective, and so prestigious that they could be an X factor in some, like if a student does an RSI with MIT, that could be considered an X factor. A Bank of America leadership program potentially could be considered an X factor. So there's something, summer programs are so broad and some of them are so hard to get into that getting into them is already a very, very impressive feat. So that's something, again, to keep in mind. So I'll start with this whole idea of the summer programs versus summer opportunities. So summer programs are really one of the many things that students can do during the summer to straighten their 6 pillars. Does every student need a summer program? Not necessarily. I mean, like I said, there might be other things that could make more sense, but I would say in most cases, a summer program at some point makes a ton of sense for students. What are some of the other things that students do, like over the summer? In my opinion, over the summer, the student should be doing normally 3 things. If they don't have the standardized testing scores already, that should generally be implemented into the summer. A little bit of test prep, more, intentional, intensive test prep. I think that's always important during the summer. One huge component of the summer, in my opinion, should normally be engaging with projects that make the world a better place. So if the student works closely with a nonprofit, if the student has a nonprofit, or if they're volunteering, the summer is a good time to expand that, make it a little bit more intentional, make it match the narrative a little bit better. So the summer is an excellent time to do that. A lot of students may opt for academic acceleration. I know this is not true for many schools, but sometimes if a student has the opportunity to accelerate in math or something like that, this could be a good time to do it. And then, of course, there's the possibilities for internships and employment, which are good ways oftentimes to show and demonstrate passion, interest, as well as different things, work ethic and whatnot, right? So there are other things that a student could do over the summer, independent research, completely on their own, or creating their own company. There's so many things that a student could do, but they're not always mutually exclusive. Oftentimes, a successful summer has elements of 3 of these things. Maybe a 2-week summer program, a strong focus in the nonprofit that they work with or that they are helping, as well as a small internship. That would be a good summer. So it's not like, okay, I'm only going to do one thing over the summer. Of course, this gets more complicated when you're doing a research-based summer program and it's 6 weeks, and then you have to make decisions. But overall, we want the summer to generally touch on different things that will help the student, have a stronger 6 pillars. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Summer programs are not the only thing to do over the summer, and they're not always the right thing to do for every student. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, and it's definitely a conversation to have. So with that, I'll start with the first type of summer programs. This one I'm calling the academic and exploration programs. These are your typical pre-college programs, right? Almost every college has one. And you'll see they're called typically pre-collegiate, pre-college programs. And if you name the school, if it's a top school, you name the school, they'll likely have it. And the way that you'll see it is normally aims 9th to 12th graders. And basically you sign up for a course or 2, and they're normally like a week or 2 weeks, and then you can do them. Typically, these are not extremely selective, though there are exceptions. And under this category, I would put like the humanities, the Summer Humanities Institute at Stanford, which is a fantastic program that is very selective. It has courses, and you engage with a professor in a course that's kind of like seminar style, but that it's a special one. And there are some others that would probably fall under that category. Maybe some of the business Wharton ones, Essentials of Entrepreneurship and Essentials of Finance, as well as maybe some of the other UPenn great would fall under this category, and they may be more selective. But by and large, when we think of these programs, they're not necessarily the most selective. And the role that they typically play is for the student to explore, whether it's a college or a field of study. I typically recommend these programs, again, with the exception of those that I mentioned that can be far more selective and look a lot better. These I would normally recommend for 9th graders, so like rising 10th graders that are still in the process of discovering what it is that they like, meaning academically, but also potentially when it comes to schools. Like it might be that the student is not fully convinced that they'd like to be at an Ivy League school, and then summer at Brown might be a great option for them to get a sense of what it is to be there. or, you know, trying to explore a West Coast school and then spending those couple of weeks at Stanford could be an interesting option for them, right? So those type of programs, I would say, they're great. They typically don't make it into an activity list. And what I mean by activity list is when you apply to college and you think about, okay, how do I present my application? We always want to think of the 10 slots that you get in an activity list for the Common App, right? I would say it is rare. It's rare that a student ends up putting oh, I did summer at Brown in 9th grade, and, you know, that's in your activity list. That's very rare. And if you're putting it there, then, you know, it means that perhaps you could have done more over the next 3 years in order to have a more robust activity list. But definitely a good opportunity for students to explore, definitely a great opportunity for students to get a sense of, you know, to get motivated about college. I mean, I've had students who do like a summer at Brown or one of the academies at Georgetown, and then they are like, wow, I'm really motivated to pursue something so that I can get into one of these schools. So that's definitely important. There are other things about this programs that could be really interesting. Perhaps the most interesting in the recent couple of years has become the U Chicago summer programs. The reason they have become very important or very, very interesting, and U Chicago has different summer programs. You know, they have the 1 week ones, the 2 week ones, the 3 week ones, and then they have the 4 week ones that are far more prestigious, and they fall under the categories of some of the other ones that I will talk about. But typically speaking, their shorter summer programs like Immersion and some others are not historically incredibly selective. However, they will become more selective, or they are becoming far more selective because of something that they call the summer session early notification, which we like to just call it ED0. And sometimes with the opportunity for students to take a course just like the summer at Brown or something like that at U Chicago, students will have the opportunity to apply in an early binding round between July to October 15, and then, you know, get notification before November 1st so that they have like 3 rounds of ED. And this is something that's, you know, huge because if we look at the numbers, this was the first year that they applied it massively for everybody who did a summer program with U Chicago. So basically the caveat is that you have to do a summer program and then you will be eligible for this. The acceptance rates seem to be pretty favorable and very good. So that's something that's likely going to attract more people and probably make them more selective, but they will still fall under this category of academic summer programs. And that's normally the role that they play. Exploratory and, you know, a great opportunity for students to get a sense of the college experience, but also there are little programs here and there that might be a little bit different. The U Chicago Immersion with the ED0. There's also, of course, like I said, the Stanford Humanities Institute, maybe some of the Wharton programs and all those that are a little bit special. In fact, I mean, if talking about special ones that, again, don't necessarily only fall in this category, but there's a summer program at Wharton called the Management and Technology Summer Institute, MNTSI, right? And that program, it's, of course, very difficult to get into, but very anecdotally, I would say, every student that I've had that has done that program ends up with a pretty good chance of doing well in a Wharton application. I mean, and there might be because if they got into the program, that means they already had potential, and then if they did a great job with it and continued their journey, then they ended up becoming very strong. So it's not necessarily if you do the program, you get a better chance, but because they got into the program, they already had a better chance. But anyway, anecdotally, every one of my students that has done MNTSI has gone either into MNT or Wharton, which is an interesting, and the numbers are not that low. I think I was counting about 7. The last one is from this cycle. So that to me is like mind-blowingly interesting. Again, I'm not saying that the causes that they did in MNTSI, but you can see an interesting pattern there. So some of these programs are effective and incredibly great. So there are other types of programs, of course, the leadership-based summer programs, which are very popular. And I was just talking a little bit about one of them. So regardless of major, so, again, for the exploratory ones, it's normally, they're a great opportunity for a student to get a sense of what majors they like or what fields of study they're interested in. Leadership summer programs or the leadership-based summer programs, it almost doesn't matter. Like, the student could be very STEM, the student could be social science, the student could be humanities, business, whatever they want to be. Most of the leadership-based summer programs are helpful for any student. Why? Because every applicant should have leadership in their applications, right? That's not something that, hey, oh, I don't have leadership. That's not my style. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, colleges like to see leadership. No matter the major, you could be a philosophy major, you could be an electrical engineer. They like leadership. So leadership summer programs end up being a very interesting option for students. Now, leadership-based summer programs are interesting because there are really not that many that are highly recognized and very prestigious and very selective, especially not at the younger level. So Wharton has the LBW, or the Leaders of the Business World, which is a fantastic leadership program designed for business students, but it's for rising seniors. The Bank of America leadership program, rising seniors. The Notre Dame leadership seminar, rising seniors. So a lot of the very selective free or incredibly prestigious programs are for rising seniors. So that leaves the younger students with not a lot of options. And one of those options is the Young Yale Global Scholars, which I'm pretty sure many of you are familiar with. And it has become sort of like, again, like this huge sensation in terms of applications that they get. But that's one of the options that students can opt to. There are others, though. Brown has the Leadership Institute. Georgetown has a leadership program. There are many universities that have leadership programs. Typically, the leadership programs are a little bit more selective than the academic ones that I just talked about. But it depends on the program. YYGS is incredibly selective because they just get so many numbers and they cannot accept everyone. But some of the other ones are less selective. And this brings me to a point that I want to make. Maybe I wanted to make earlier, but I forgot. It's the whole idea that sometimes summer programs, you could have a fantastic summer program that is very selective, and it matches your narrative in a perfect way, and you do it, and nobody knows it. It has no recognition. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of true that a lot of the summer programs end up playing a big role based on their prestige and their fame and how much and how well they're known they are. And this is an issue because sometimes admissions officers don't know, and you need to educate them in your description and all of that. And if for some reason they miss it, they might not necessarily get it. And this is why a lot of the summer programs end up being a lot of like, hey, the big names, right? The RSI, the YYGS, even though there might be other great leadership summer programs, there might be other great research summer programs, but the name ends up making a big difference because the moment, if an admissions officer is glancing over an activity list and they see RSI, they're already impressed. They already know that's a big deal. And maybe you did some summer program that's just as good and maybe even better than RSI, but it's called a XYZ research thing, they might overlook it. So that's an unfortunate reality with summer programs. I think if a student of yours gets into a great summer program that's very selective and as good as one of the very, very top ones, please remind them that it's very important to educate whoever's reading about it and making it very clear that this was very hard to get into, that this has a very high level, and that's an important part of it. So a lot of the summer programs are like that. The name sort of like plays a role. Again, unfortunate because there are many programs that are really interesting and then come out. A clear example is within the academic side of things, and not so much academic. Like Columbia just released a fantastic environmental program that they just launched this year, or will be launching. But again, it doesn't have much recognition yet. We don't know how selective it's going to be. There are all these things that make it like, is it going to be worth it or not? And then it's difficult when you're paying $6,000, $8,000, $12,000 for a summer program that you don't know how well recognized it's going to be, right? So it's always an interesting, difficult investment to make when you don't know how well received or what role it's going to play in an application. But the leadership summer programs are definitely interesting ones, and they play a very important role in an application. If the student has leadership and they have shown leadership potential, a summer program shows that they are interested in leadership beyond just having that precedent position in their club. Like they're curious to learn more about leadership in a bigger scene with other leaders, students, and whatnot. So I think it can show a very interesting quality that students have. So I think leadership programs, regardless of major, can play a great role for students. Summer research-based summer programs, which are some of the most popular ones, I think, and also the more selective ones in general, are one of the most important summer programs out there, right? One thing that I want to say, I mean, there are really different kinds of research that a student can do. I normally like to sort of like catalog these in three different types of research. One of the research that student can do is the traditional, the way that we used to do it. When I was in high school and I wanted to do research, what I did was I cold email professors. I got ambitious at the time. I don't think many people did that. Hey, you send an email to a professor at a school, and you tell them, hey, I'm really interested in doing research in X and Y. I see that you do research on the same things. I would love to, help you with your research if you need an assistant, blah, blah, blah. That's the old-fashioned way of finding research opportunities. Sometimes the professors will say yes, sometimes they will say no, but there's an opportunity there. Difficult because sometimes what happens with those opportunities, they say yes and you start working with them, and then maybe they get super busy and they ghost you and you don't hear from them again. That happens when you do that sometimes, but it could be a great opportunity, especially if you're invited into a lab or something like that. Those are fantastic ways of doing research. So there's the cold emailing, or an alternative could be if you're a professor or you have family who's a professor or friends, and somebody can get invited into a lab. Those are great. Those are organic research opportunities that a student can engage with through whatever means. That's one way of doing research. Normally what that shows is that the student has the initiative to take on research, work with a professor and all that. Another type of research that students do, it's what we call independent research through a mentorship program. And those are normally, you've probably heard of them, Lumiere, Polygens, Pioneer, you name them. Now there are hundreds of those companies, right? And sort of like what they do is they connect a student with a professor or with a PhD student, and then they work on typically a literature review paper to be written and then to be published eventually. This is independent research. The student has control typically of the narrative and what it is that they're going to do research on, which is great because that allows the student to have control of the narrative and say, hey, if my narrative is going to be about the combination between mental health, sports, and technology, then they can do research on that specifically, right? Which is great. So that's one type of research. And they also are sort of like summer programs. I would put them in a different category, but they are like summer programs or programs that you could do at any point that could be interesting. And then the third one is research through summer programs. And this is the one that I mostly will focus on. And these are the ones that you apply like officially. There's a portal, there are essays that you write, you apply for the role, and typically these programs will be 5, 6, 7 weeks long, and you go into the university. There's a professor that guides you. It could be a group effort or it could be you and the professor, but normally it's very hands-on. It doesn't promise typically a deliverable, like there might not be a publication or there might be a poster or not, we don't know. But it's true that by doing the program itself, you can already prove that you've done research, and it could be a first sort of like step into, independent research or into another year of research that can help the students, right? In many ways, they're sort of like different flavors of research, because this one, oftentimes you don't have control over what you're doing research on. You just more or less want to do research on something that is connected to your narrative. Perhaps it's not your narrative directly, but you can connect it to it. Or many times you can base your narrative off of your first research experience, which happens quite often as well. But these ones are typically very, very selective and very good. When a student is a rising senior, it's when so many options, open up. SSP, SSTP, RSI, you name them. There's so many options. BU Rise and RMP, and so many options. Simons. There are so many opportunities. All of them incredibly selective for students to do as rising seniors. But for younger students, particularly for rising 10th graders, so freshmen, there are really not that many options. If you're in California, a little bit more fortunate, there are more options for Californians. The UC system has done a fantastic job to have implement a lot of summer programs. So you can do Cosmos, you can do, different programs through the UC system that are great, fantastic, also very selective and incredible. So there are some exceptions. There are some other exceptions as well in different states. New Jersey, there are some options, and Virginia, there could be governors and other options, right? So depending on location, there might be some, specific things, but by and large, most of the research opportunities come to students a little bit later on, right? So some of the ones that I like to highlight is SRA, so the Summer Research Academies at UC Santa Barbara, is one of those UC programs that doesn't make it only for Californians. So students from all over the country and all over the world have the opportunity to apply to these summer programs, which, by the way, opened their rolling admissions December 15th. So if you're interested, now is a good time to be writing those essays and applying as soon as possible. They are rolling, so as soon as possible. And then the older sister of that program is the Research Mentorship Program, also at UCSB, but it's more selective, typically intended for older students. The SRA has like a class, like they teach you to do research and you do a little bit of research. RMP is full research with the professor. So those two options are incredible. Oftentimes you benefit from following them in a sequence. So students who do SRA generally have a better shot at getting into RMP the next year. The level of selectivity for those summer programs varies, but I would say typically it's pretty selective. I would say, if we look very closely, it's likely going to be close to single digits or single digits. For RMP, I would say almost for sure single digits, and SRA close to single digits in terms of acceptance rate. Something similar happens with BU and their honors high school honors program, and then you can then do Boston University Rice as a rising senior. Also, acceptance rate's pretty low. Garcia and Simons in the SUNY system, I think those are great as well. Options that allow students to do research. So as you can probably see, it's not like there are hundreds of options for research-based summer programs that are selective, that are prestigious. So it really becomes a bit of a big competition to try to get one of these. And if you do, I think students are in a privileged position. Now, there are, of course, other options. Again, like I said, for rising seniors, there will be many. For rising juniors, there's the summer internship program at UC Santa Cruz and others out there. But again, it's a very limited pool of summer programs that are out there. The research-based ones, like I said, generally play a fantastic role in narrative building. So if you are doing research that is related to your field, you can show that you can work with at a university level, and that you can do independent research. And it's almost like two different things, right? Both are research. One shows that you can manifest your passion and interest into something that you really like and sort of like your niche. The other one shows that you can do it at a high level. And when you have two, you look fantastic. So these programs I'm a big fan of. I think they're great. Now, again, they're not the only way to do research. There are other ways to do research. If you have a connection to a lab at MIT, of course, well, that's gonna be great, perhaps better than some of these things, right? So, but these are definitely great options to do research. So the biggest challenge with these, I think, historically has been that they are long, and oftentimes the student has to plan a bit of the summer thinking of the length of these programs. So they tend to be really 6-7 weeks long, which takes most of the summer from the student. But again, fantastic opportunities, great ways to show prestige. And the ones that I'm mentioning, most admissions officers will look at them and know exactly what it is. So like an RSI or any of those very prestigious summer programs, when they look at the names SRA, RMP, BU Rise, Garcia, Simons, SSP, they know, they understand what they stand for, they understand how selective they are. And so you don't need to educate the admissions officers as much. They will understand the program. So that's something to also, again, like I said, unfortunately, that's something that matters in many ways, but that's the way it is. So some other summer programs that I want to write about, these are a little bit more niche, but they're not really. I mean, the reason why I include them here is because almost no matter the major, kind of like with leadership, math and writing tend to be one of those things that can match with every narrative. Like you could be interested in physics and chemistry or biochemistry or something like that. And if you have writing as an element of your narrative, beautiful. It's going to make a world of difference. You could write things that are related to that. Generally writing can match with any single major. So a summer program for writing typically is a great investment. And the great thing about those programs is that with writing, it's one of those opportunities the students get to do very high level stuff very early. Even a freshman could apply to Alpha, which has a very small acceptance rate, or to the Iowa Online or Kenyon Online or Adroit or any of those like high level summer programs for writing. They're normally more open to younger students. The residential ones make it a little bit difficult for like Iowa and Kenyon, but in general, there are options for students, even when they're very young, to get something that's super high level. So if a student gets into like an Alpha or Iowa or something like that in a younger age, they're already doing summer programs that have a very low acceptance rate. And you could sort of like build that narrative and activity list with high level things very early on. So if you can skip the exploration summer program and put in something that already has like a 10% acceptance rate, I mean, wow, right? And the same goes for math. Math has great summer programs that are open to younger students. Promise is one of them. Promise probably, they open for 9th graders. Ross used to open for everyone. Now they make them be a little bit older, but still Mathly opens. And there are many, many options. I think there are probably 7 or 8 summer programs in math that are very interesting at a very, very high level, with very low acceptance rates that could be really interesting. And they're also very foundational. Math and writing, again, you could, if you do a summer program in writing, you might do better in the many competitions there are in writing. Writing probably has some of the most competitions that a student can engage with, whether it's National History Day, Scholastic, Young Arts, Harvard Crimson, you name it. There are so many opportunities for summer or competitions in the writing spheres. And of course, for math, there are also many competitions that a student can engage with. Many of them, AMC, Amy, but also other potential paths that a student could take with competition. So they are so foundational and helpful that I wanted to include this here, even though they're a little bit more niche. But again, like I said, if you're into music, if you're into debate, if you're into very specific fields or things, there are programs out there. Music has some of the best ones as well that I'm happy to talk about in a one-on-one, very specific setting or very individualized setting for talking about the summer programs. But it's sort of like a very interesting world once you get into the world of summer programs and how do you build them. So one of the biggest challenges for students and parents is basically how do you even, like, when do you do what? And the reality is that there are many different pathways. So I laid out 2 paths that I think are natural. And, yeah, there might be a student who's doing promise in 9th grade and, they will do, USAMO and, invitational for whatever. Of course, there are those people who are, geniuses and they can do things at a very high level very early on. But I set out 2 pathways for students who are good, not your, hey, I'm in multivariable calculus in 7th grade type of student, but your typical great student. So here you see the path of path A with a U Chicago immersion, which in my opinion, if you are just a rising 10th grader and you don't have a full idea of what it is that you're going to be doing or I would take the U Chicago immersion because, hey, you get the ticket to the ED0. You might not use it, but you might. And so having the possibility of doing that in the future, to me, is almost like a no-brainer. So I think, that would be my choice of the academic summer program that a student could do as a rising 10th grader. Another path that a student could take is do a leadership institute. So to open up room for research later. So instead of doing YYGS later, they could do a BLI, the Brown Leadership Institute, or another leadership program to show that they're interested in leadership, get that out of the way. And then the next year they can apply to a research-based summer program. Another student could do, YYGS and also engage with research, but through independent research or some other means. And then you could see that would lead maybe somebody who does YYGS might have a better shot in path A at the Notre Dame Leadership Seminar, which is, I included here, is very hard to get into. They accept about 100 people per year. Many people apply. It's a very low acceptance rate. It's free and it's fantastic and it's hard for people to get in. So, but aspirationally, the student could have a shot at that summer program. And path B shows RMP as a second option after SRA. So like I said, SRA is like the younger one, and then RMP, the second option. I've had students who do SRA. I think most of the students, or a couple of the students that did SRA and apply for RMP, they did well. They got into RMP as well. The acceptance rates, again, are pretty low. But these are great options for institutional research at a university, and that would put the student in a great position. So this is more or less a potential timeline of what students can do. I often get asked, and I guess this is technically, I guess, a different timeline, but I often get asked of oh, okay, my student is an 8th grader and it's going to be a rising 9th grader. Does that count? Should we do something with that summer? And the answer is yes. You can include it as a 9th grade activity. It's likely, it's so young when they do it that it's unlikely to make it into an activity list, I think. But it could make it into an additional information section. And what it can do is it can be very foundational as well. My suggestion is if there's still things in foundational English or in writing or in math that the student still needs to work on, I would absolutely do summer programs that improve the students in those realms. Because, if you're better at math and writing, they will be the foundation of whatever they end up doing, whatever the major they choose, whatever everything. So I would probably focus on those 2. And if they're already very strong at that, then I would go exploration. Okay, we'll have them try, instead of doing the exploration as rising 10th graders, have them do it as rising 9th graders. And that means they will have more room to be more intentional, specific as rising 10th graders. So those would be my suggestions for the 8th to 9th grade students, which I often get a lot of questions about. So I think I talked too much. I want to open it up for questions, and hopefully we have some time for some of those. I know this is big, and it's generally depends a lot on the student's trajectory and very specific to very specific students. So I'm happy to have more one-on-one conversations on things like this, and happy to support.
Great. Okay, that was quick. That was very quick. So before we go into Q&A, I am going to share my screen, and also if any of the parents have more complicated questions, you're welcome to raise your hand, and I will be able to open up a mic for you so you can ask a question directly, have a dialogue with Demi directly, in case the writing question was not easy enough or comprehension enough for you. Before we go into Q&A, I wanted to share with everybody about internship IvyCompass just rolling out. Those are internship dealing with the startup internship program. So you are not have your kids, it's online, okay? It's online internship. You don't have to go into the office space. That's why I open up a, all different industry for all different type of narrative and also different type of background interest. And they are not going to the office pouring tea for people. They are not going to office linking the envelope or stamps. They actually get involved with the real case, real assignment. Those startup executives, they will assign somebody to work with you, a mentor. And those people have a, they chop up the assignment or some kind of project to a small pieces. So your kids as a high school student able to make a contribution, to make impact for a real working environment. So what field? Pretty much everything. Tech, finance, media, engineering, machine learning, consulting, mental health, fashion, health tech, environmental science, or nonprofit. So if your kids like the writing, if your kids like a marketing, if you have a psychology, sort of a mental health, any interest, we pretty much able to help you to match. Obviously, pretty much able. And the timing is also very good. Total 8 weeks, okay? Total 8 weeks. And 1 hour with our mentor every single week. Sometimes some company might have 2 or 3 students, which is great. Then you have 2 or 3 students working together as assignment. You can help each other, have a dialogue, have discussion, able to foster your kids' leadership, coordination, time management, engage with other team member to product a one cohesive result to the real company. Okay, so that internship opportunity is one of the summer, could be summer, but we have about 6 cohort each year. So it doesn't have to be summer, could be throughout the semester if kids have more time able to handling additional activity like this. That way summer maybe can allocating what Demi just talked about, the research or other type of more suitable summer program. Okay, now tonight, obviously you heard Demi. Demi was one of the often speaker we invited to our platform. He's very knowledgeable. If you feel you are looking for potential college application counselor and you like Demi's style, you can scan the barcode on the right-hand side. That way, me and Allison will be able to follow up with you, arrange that inquiry meeting to have you have 30 minutes talking with the Demi so you can talk to him about your case, your situation, if you think Demi might be, suitable for you. That's if you have interest with college application. But if you're not, if you wanted to potentially just wanted to, go into our group to follow our information, and if you wanted to also add on the barcode on the left-hand side, we can also providing you a 2025 summer program, a list. I do see some of the parents already left a question in the chat box asking, where can I find a list? Voila, here we provide it to you. So we're going to provide you that potential list. Obviously, there's a lot more out there, and there's a lot more program out there, but at least you have something to work with. And obviously, if you have a consultant like Demi, then it's even easier because under his guidance, he will give you cohesive the program matching final main story. That way you can always follow that guidance, have a mentor to tell you what to do, because some program cannot be also so random. If you don't tell a cohesive story, may not be make any impact. You might be wasting time. You might be wasting the money, because some programs is not cheap. Sometimes $5,000, $6,000. So you make sure you choose the right one. Okay, that's a whole presentation tonight that means to share with you. So I'm going to leave this page here. Then I am going to do this. I'm going to answer some of the questions. And in the meantime, you raise your hand. I will come to you. I will kind of mix, go to some questions and then come to you. For some of the parents, might have a question wanted to ask you directly. Okay, number one question from Allison Lu, saying, thank you very much for this wonderful session. If you have a question, I have a couple, which is, she has a couple. I'm just going to list one for you. Because many college summer programs are highly selective, we probably will apply a few to be more safe. If accepted by more than one program, what happens? If the student accepted for multiple programs, what's your suggestion?
Well, first, congrats if you get accepted to multiple summer programs. That's a great thing. I mean, one thing that I do want to say about applying to multiple summer programs, and one of the great things about it is, of course, you have a bigger chance of getting into one of them. But also one thing that I didn't mention about summer programs is they are great training for applying to college eventually. So if you're doing, say, 3-4 applications per year every December or January, the student is likely getting trained really well in applying to college. And so that alone is a big benefit. Obviously, if you're working with me, for example, I help with the with the summer program application process. So I also get to learn the writing style. And, it's a good training of what the summer application, of what the college application is going to be like. So in the case of a student that gets multiple offers, it always depends on the timing of the offers. Give you an example it's a great example, but it's kind of terrible. Like if you apply for the early decision YYGS, the students got admitted by December 15th, and they had to make a decision by December 20th. By that time, you have no idea what's going to happen with the rest of the summer programs. You don't know if you're going to get into any others. So it's basically, do I pay the deposit or do I not, and then lose the seat? In this case, of course, my suggestion would be, depends on the other programs that the student applied to, right? If one of YGS and the other ones are ones that have like a 10%, 5% acceptance rate, I would normally say pay the deposit and we'll see what happens later. But when the decisions come at a similar time, I think that's a good time to work with your consultant and see, hey, these are my options. We look at your narrative, we see what makes the most sense with the rest of your plans for the summer. Say you're already doing research and you're already doing research and you're engaging with the community impact thing that you have already planned, and you could use a leadership program, then you might choose a leadership program that's normally going to be 2 weeks over the research one that you also got accepted to, because it makes more sense for you at that particular time. So it's about what makes the most sense for the purposes of your narrative. Of course, that also depends on if you get into a leadership program like, the Brown one, and you get into a research one like RMP, well, you're not going to turn down RMP for the Brown Leadership Institute. So you also have to take the prestige and the level into consideration, and we can, figure out what makes the most sense. But definitely a great, problem to have. The big thing that makes it, you could turn down any program that you've been accepted to. Some of them will encourage you or force you to give a deposit within a certain number of days, and that would normally will determine if you're going to go or not. But even if you already pay a deposit and you change your mind, it's still okay. They're not going to blacklist you. Like if you paid your deposit for Yale YYGS and you don't go because there's something else came out and it was fantastic, Yale's not going to blacklist you. It's not, it's they don't have a connection to the admissions. They're not going to hate you. It is what it is. That's not a big deal. So you can, it's going to be fine. That's not an issue. Yeah.
That's great. That's just leading to her second question is, if you're rejected by those highly selective programs, summer program, will that have any negative impact for later on college application?
No connection. No connection. So absolutely no connection. So you could be rejected every year from the Wharton programs and easily get into Wharton. That would not be something that, it's strange or anything. Of course, it is likely that if you're getting into the summer programs, and that would probably be because you already have a background that makes sense to them. But in reality, technically, there's no connection. They wouldn't put you in a list of, oh, this is someone who wouldn't get into the school.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Demi. The next question from Wei Hua Song. How to get a list of summer program, which is I just mentioned. If you scan the barcode on the left-hand side, we were providing you a summer program, a list. That way you can, if you're working with a consultant like Demi, then obviously he will recommending some based on your kid's situation. But if you don't, if you're not working with anyone, you can, scan the barcode and we will help you to provide you a potential list to see which one you might be interested. And also, Wei Hua is asking, when is the best time to apply for summer program?
So there are different deadlines. A lot of the big summer programs, there are highly prestigious, may have December deadlines. RSI, which I think somebody asked, what's the full name of the MIT summer program? It's called the Research Science Institute. And that has a deadline in December. RMP, the UC Santa Barbara one, that research mentorship program, has a deadline in, it opens in December, but it's a rolling admission. So therefore, it kind of has a deadline in December. So there's some that have deadlines in December, and if they have deadlines in December, you better work on them in November or October. And if they have deadlines in January, normally you work on them in November or December. So normally the deadlines vary, and therefore the time that you get ready for those applications vary. But typically the cycle is between November to March. Most of the deadlines will fall under that big time. And again, some programs will have different times. And it's not necessarily that the best ones have earlier deadlines. A lot of the math ones, Ross and all of that, have deadlines in March. They are very, very high level. It just depends on the program of the and the way that they design the schedule. Some summer programs require different things. One great summer program is MIT, another MIT one, Beaverworks is called, and it requires to do like a course as well. So, you want to be educated on what these programs are, what are the prerequisites, what are the things that you need to get ready. So this is something that you probably want to have a good idea of before, now for next year, really. Like now, if you have a good idea of more or less what are the options out there, this can be really helpful for a student.
Yes.
And for a family to plan.
Yes, always plan ahead of time, right? It's always plan ahead of time. That's why the advantage of working with a consultant like Demi, because they know when to talk to you. Because many parents saying, okay, if I work with you, what do you do? What do you consultant do? Are they meeting with me on Zoom? So what we talk about, I say that's one of the major things. Every single year, October, November, it's also application season. But at the same time, Demi is working with the underclass student to starting discuss what to do for the next year summer. So you have to really thinking about, you cannot wait until next year, April, May, March, then it's too late. So you end up have like very limited selection. You have a very limited time. Then you also have a very leftover kind of program. Some of the summer program is not suitable, right? Some of the, one of the question I think, Demi, maybe it's a good time for me to ask you to repeat. Many of the Chinese family, they're thinking, if I want to go to Harvard, I better go to Harvard summer program in order to have advantage of applying Harvard. Or if I like Chicago, maybe I go to Chicago summer program or Columbia program, then Columbia will like me better because I attending their summer program. Can you maybe share with everyone that's a myth?
Yeah, 100% a myth. It really doesn't matter where the summer program is. So you might hear actually like RMP, right, is UC Santa Barbara. And you might be thinking, hey, yeah, my goal is not UC Santa Barbara. My goal is Princeton. Why would I do a summer program at UC Santa Barbara? because Princeton doesn't have any good summer programs, and UC Santa Barbara. So, you know, it's about the program itself. You kind of forget about the name of the university. The name of the university, I mean, if it might be useful for the student, I mean, it might coincide that they want to explore that school, and that's a great thing, right? If they want to see the school and all that. But about the quality of the program, it really doesn't matter what it is. It's just the program itself. And you don't get an advantage to get into that school for doing the program. U Chicago is it's a bad example, because you would get the opportunity to do the ED0 thing, which I guess would be definitely an advantage. And there are some programs, like I said, like the example of MNTSI. Yeah, you probably don't get technically a boost, but anecdotally it does help. And people who do RSI, probably, you know, it's helpful for them when it comes to MIT. If RSI was done at a different school, you would still get that boost. So it's not about because it's at that school, it's because of the level of the program. So if MNTSI was done at, you know, University of Indiana Bloomington, it would still be a big deal. A great example is SSP. SSP for astrophysics is at New Mexico. You probably have never heard of that school, New Mexico State. Yet that program is the program if you're interested in like astrophysics, right? So you would get into a top program at maybe Princeton, and you went to a school that has a 99% acceptance rate or something like that, right? So it's not the university, it's the program that matters, right? So that's definitely something that you want to think about. And know if you do a summer program at Harvard, your chances are not going to go up by doing the program. However, again, I do want to stress this. Maybe if you spend 2 weeks at Harvard, you understand Harvard better, and that may help you write better essays for Harvard. That is true. But it's not that automatically because you did a program there, you get flagged and you get an extra boost when applying to the school. That's not going to happen.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next question from Helena. Thank you for the great session. Do you know any competitive summer program that doesn't require 16 years of age as a minimal age requirement? Anything like for younger student?
Yeah, 16. I mean, 16 is an interesting one. Many of the summer programs, some of them do it by age, many of them do it by academic year. So a lot of the writing and the math ones that I mentioned, you could be younger and do them. So you could be a ninth grader that's 14, 15, and you could apply to Promise, you could apply to Alpha, even residential ones that you could actually apply to and go. There are not that many research-based ones. SRA, I don't know what their limit with age is. It's not 16. You could be younger and go to SRA. I think they will allow somebody younger to do. So that's the only one that I can think of that would allow. If you're in California, Cosmos allows ninth graders. You know, so they're definitely out there. Not many, not many. And I think it would require, you know, a meeting and figuring out what are the options at a very high level. But if we're not thinking about high level, if we're thinking about any summer program, there are hundreds really that would accept any freshmen and things like that. So most of the section that I had as academic or exploration ones, they will take a 14-year-old. They will take a high school student, like ninth grade, 10th grade, and regardless of age.
All right. What do you think about, she did mention about STEM field. Is that still matching what you just answered for the question?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, in STEM, even for the academic ones, there are going to be engineering classes, there are going to be biology classes, there are going to be everything in STEM. If we're thinking about research-based STEM ones, then the options are going to be pretty limited depending on location. But SRA, the science, the Summer Research Academy at UC Santa Barbara does take younger students. And most of the research-based summer program there, most of the options or the tracks, they have tracks are STEM-based. So there will be some options even for high-level STEM programs. But even for the non-super selective, there are going to be many, many options.
Okay. All right, thank you. Demi, what do you think about Johns Hopkins Talented Youth Program? Don't they offer something like lower, younger kids with a different kind of type of, field, math, engineering kind of type of?
Yeah, CTY is great. I mean, CTY definitely has fantastic programs. Many of them are more accessible, like easier to get into. You could do them when you're younger. I 100% recommend any CTY program in general is great. Whether you're doing a summer program, whether you're taking an AP class with them, CTY in general is a great institution that does, fantastic work with programs. They have also pretty selective ones. There's one it's called iSpeed, I think, like an engineering one that is very selective and really good. Not as well known, which has its own little complication, but CTY has a whole range of different programs. Most of them, or the vast majority of them, highly recommended. So I think I would definitely, if you have like a 7th grader, 8th grader doing CTY programs, that's a great choice. That's a great thing to do. But even for a little bit older students, it's a great way.
Thank you. Demi, do you mind maybe on the chat box? I still wanted to, because I think you quickly spoke about MIT summer program. Can you type in so the parents, Ruthie, Sean, will be able to, get from you to get better understanding, since we talk so fast.
Yeah, Research Science Institute.
Yeah, while you're typing, Helena, you're also asking about effective way to explore independent research, which is Demi just mentioned about. There's a multiple good company out there. IvyCompass working with a couple of them, like Lumineer. Sometimes I know Demi also working with the Pioneer. Also, there's a Polygon. We also have some in-house. Let's say on our team, we have a Ray, Uncle Ray, a lot of students call him Uncle Ray. He does fantastic economic background research. Many Demi students and also other consulting students working with Ray all have a very good result. He is a seasoned financial professional individual. He's very dedicated, spent lots of time with his student. I know last year we have another student apply for, got into Stanford UPenn Watson program, all under Ray's guidance. So if you are in the economic field, finance field, matter of fact, his team, he supported one team, I think, get a very high competition in the Watson investment competition. So yeah, Ray is very good in-house. So that's also the research opportunity. Next question coming from Lily. If the kids taking summer program, do they need to put the summer program in their college application? If yes, where do they put? In the activity section or somewhere else?
Great question. So it depends, right? So if the summer program that they did, we decide that it's one of the top 10 activities that they've done, then we put them in the activity list. If it's a summer program that gives college credit, you can put it in the education section, which is a bit of a trick. If you did a summer program that gives college credit, you could put it under education. There's a question like, have you taken anything that gives you credit? And then you can put it there. But in most cases, they don't give you college credit. And if they don't give you college credit, you normally want to put them in the activity list. And if they're not under the 10 most impressive activities that you end up doing, we put them in the additional information section, which is another part of the Common App. So we make sure that they get representation. What representation they get, it depends on how well it contributes to the narrative, how selective it is, how much it matches the overall application.
Okay. Another question coming from, thank you, Demi. Another question comes from YC Tian. YC, if you can, maybe maybe add my WeChat or Allison WeChat. Actually, we can refer you. We have right now excellent bioscience type of program. That professor is so good. She coaching like more than 50 students. Able to have posters and sometimes also going to the laboratory. That's a local. You have to actually go into local in San Diego to do those laboratory research. I have that resource. This is very good. They publish. You do real case research as well. And so if you come to me, I will refer or connecting you with that professor. I believe it's UCSD's program. And that professor actually reached out to us. She has program every single year. Student loves her. So connecting with me, Later on, I'm going to put my WeChat there. I will be happy to refer you to that professor. For any bioscience or biology background student, you're able to come to me. Let me also read that question to Demi. So Demi, that way you can give her some of the recommendation. The kids are 10th grade, are interested in biology, but high school does not offer biology course until 11th grade. So has self-studied biology in the past 6 months and plan to participate in USABO in early 2025 and then again 2026. Which 2025 summer program would you recommend? College summer courses or program, company or college lab, volunteer training program, others?
10th grader, so rising 11th grade. I would definitely go for, well, it depends. If we want to get ready for USABO, if the goal is like, hey, we're gonna do a program that will help us get ready for USABO, I would probably do an academic one that focuses on high-level biology. If the goal is to, do the USABO, I recommend doing the USABO training almost separately. In my opinion, you want to train for USABO the way that you train for like any Olympiad, which almost like either with a coach or on your own with the resources from USABO and the textbook and all that. So you want to train for that. I would say for narrative building purposes, if biology is going to be the thing, my recommendation would be to do a research-based summer program that focuses on biology, so that you have the USABO background and then the research as well, which will show knowledge of test knowledge of biology with the USABO, and then applicable knowledge with a research-based program. That would be my suggestion. But if we need more work on USABO is incredibly difficult. I'm not saying like, oh, you just study a little, it's a very difficult, especially if you're not in a biology class, right? So you have to learn everything on your own. So if you need more time to study more USABO, my suggestion would be to do an academic program that focuses on biology that will help the student have a stronger foundation for USABO. But I would say if the student can handle doing a lot of the self-studying for USABO on their own, and doing a summer program that shows a little bit more of an application, that would be my suggestion. And it's tough to do USABO without an AP bio class at the same time, but it's certainly doable. And obviously, when the time comes and the student does take an 11th grade biology, it's not going to be that hard.
Okay, Allison, if you're listening, would you please on the WeChat providing Uncle Ray's information, because he is very good. So Allison, if you're listening, please on the WeChat to everybody providing economic direction research. And Demi, would you please, because I also heard a lot of people asking, because in our group we have a lot of people are in the finance industry. So what do you think about for the student are interested in the finance or investment field? How would you conduct narrative for this type of student to be?
So we're doing a lot of advertisement for Ray, but I think Ray is a great option for that, because he normally does programs that show sort of like solutions to community problems. So there's like a social impact component to the work that he does typically. And that's very important for research in, like, if you're in finance or business in general, you want to make sure that you're not just doing business. And I do the webinar on business stuff, and if you haven't seen it, see it. You cannot just be like business or finance on its own. Normally, it needs to have an element of how do you use business or finance as a tool to make the world a better place. And so normally you want to engage either with research or with activities that show that you can do good with the things that you're doing. There are summer programs that do a good job for that as well. Like we said, LBW, MNTSI are summer programs that do add elements of that into the mix. The essentials programs for younger students, not so much, but still could be interesting things to do. But when it comes to research or product building or things like that, there's obviously if you do research, a research project that has an impact component, that's what you want to do. Whether it's environmental, social, or something like that, that's generally what you want to do. And there are different ways of doing it, but that's definitely the best way to do it. And in fact, I would not recommend building a narrative in the fields of business and research without a strong element of social or environmental impact. That normally doesn't go too well. So I would say definitely be intentional about it. Definitely make sure that you have an impact component.
Okay, great. I am asking Ellison to provide his WeChat so she can do that. Thank you very much. Also here, someone is also asking for marketing side, business marketing side program. What do you think?
Not that many, unfortunately. And I mean, that it's something that, or not at a very, very high level. There are a ton of marketing programs that might be a little bit more on the exploratory academic side of things. But for students interested in doing something at a high level with marketing, it's not like there are a ton of options. In general, I would say like the business programs, Wharton has almost like control over most of the great summer programs for students. So I would say there are elements of marketing embedded into many of the Wharton summer programs that I think could be interesting to look into, but I cannot think of a marketing program that it's selective and prestigious that would be great. I mean, there, of course, like I said, there are going to be many options, but they might not be the most selective. And sometimes that's okay, right? If it's for exploration and trying to see if the field makes the most sense, I think there are definitely going to be many. Emerson has some good ones. I think USC has some program with marketing as well. Again, not highly selective, but interesting enough that you could look into.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. JJ is asking, what do you think about governor's school program? If they're both visual art and humanity for governor's program, which subject to choose?
Great question. So governor's programs are generally really good because they're very selective, right? So they don't take that many people. I don't think there's one that's better than the other. I would say it depends on the narrative, right? So if the narrative is taking you to, one or the other, that's what I would choose. Oh, my narrative clearly needs more work on this side, maybe that, or my narrative doesn't even have that at all, then of course choose the other one to make sure that you're straightening that as well. So any governor's program is good, no matter what the different area is. So I would choose the one that matches the narrative a little bit better.
Okay, right now it's about almost 10:30. I am going to open mic for some of the parents able to have a conversation with you. So make sure you're asking one question, okay? In case some other family asking, let's every family asking only one questions. And if we don't have many people, then I will open, obviously more sequence to you as well. So right now, first one is Helena Z. I already unmute you, so you are able to open up and talk to Demi directly, please. Helena? Are you there? Okay, Helena, if you're not there, I give it to Yamu Xi.
Hello, my name is Yamu. I'm a 11th grader, and I just had a question about how beneficial like a summer program would be for me. And my situation is that I recently like switched my focus from wanting to go to like an education major into going to like biology or chemistry or something that prepares me for like pre-med programs in college.
Yeah, great question. I mean, the first suggestion that I would make is make sure that you're using education as well when you apply. Like, don't let it go and completely forget about it. Make sure that when you apply to college, combine the both and sell yourself as an internationalist with bio and education. First little tip there that's going to help you a lot. But so what you want to do is probably go for a research-based one, because I think the best way that you can show that you can manifest your passion and interest is maybe applying into one of the research-based ones. All of the research-based ones have biology, so it's not like you're in a niche, field. All of them have like multiple options with different flavors of biology. So probably shoot for those. If it doesn't work out, I wouldn't do an academic one, or I wouldn't do any other type of summer program. I would do then independent research with Lumiere or something like that. I mean, the main thing that you have to do is make it clear that your narrative is biology. I would say that's if you are convinced that you want to go for biology. And right now, I would, if you were my student, we would have a conversation about that. Biology and education are in the same school. It's a school of arts and science typically, which, if your background is in education and it's strong enough, and you don't have that much of a background in biology, maybe the strategy might make a little bit more sense to go for education and then switch or just declare a major in biology later on. But if you are convinced that you want to do it now and you want to do the research, I would go for like a research-based summer program or an independent research opportunity in bio.
So Yamu, do you have a college counselor coach?
No, I do not.
Yeah, you can scan the barcode on the right-hand side if you are interested to finding out what is the package, how to serve. You can scan the barcode on the right-hand side, and then we can follow up with you to see if you can have a one-on-one conversation with Demi afterwards to finding out you have a better strategy to do this. Is it
Okay.
stopping the permit?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Pleasure.
Yeah, definitely scan the barcode. Okay, so we can have a more conversation. Next one is actually for Lucy. Lucy is the next one, then JJ. Okay, Lucy, you can open your mic, Lucy.
Hi, is it me?
Yeah, Lucy. No,
yeah.
Lucy Liu. JJ, you are next. Lucy Liu first.
Oh.
Yeah, please. Lucy, are you there?
I think I'm Lucy Liu, right?
Yeah, you are Lucy Liu. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hi. I have a question. So my son is a highly competitive athlete, and he has to go to training every day. So in the summertime, I would like to know, is there any good summer school, but online, a summer program, a good one, but it's in online, in the business field?
Ooh, in business field. So in business field, it gets a little bit tricky. There are not that many good ones in business. There are a lot of them in STEM. Like there are some great AI ones in STEM and things like that. My suggestion would be if the business's field would be for him to try to engage maybe more on something like research or something like that will allow him to do high level business related activities that will be remote. So he could do it on his own pace and with a mentor.
Yep.
That would be my suggestion, because I think some of the top summer programs in business are all residential.
Yeah, okay. So I know I should just ask one question, but because you mentioned the research is actually that's what I thought because our time, the online thing. So the research, I have a very specific question because he does thinking to do something related to his sports, a research paper, but basically to analyze why that sport are not very profit, those years. So do you know any, I know you mentioned some of the independent researcher company, but which one is maybe they are good at sports research? I don't know what this is I think the paper probably very niche, in his sport to analyze. Is it something do you call them in sports research or
no,
business
actually,
research? I'm not so sure. Yeah.
Lucy, actually, you can connecting with us. I
Okay.
just recently connecting one of the girl.
Mm-hmm.
She loves sports management. So we just connecting with her a PhD from a Michigan University. So connecting with us, I will be happy to match to actually Lumiere. Lumiere is the company helping us, that student, actually connecting someone on sports research. We have that resource. So adding, either my WeChat or Allison's WeChat, will both are the same. Then either one of us will be able to connecting you with the Lumineer, and they will have a sports. Actually, yes, they have a 7,000 different PhD.
That's what I was gonna say. Lumineer probably has the biggest. So even if you think something is super niche, they normally have someone. No matter how niche you go, they typically have someone who will have a background in that.
Yeah, and then I want to mention that Lumineer, we're able to connecting you, and also Ray also able to, if a business, economic, that's right, Demi, right? Ray can do something towards that area.
Yeah, which, by the way, they would be the component that I would add. I think like doing research on sports and business, it's great. And if it has a social impact component to it, even better, because you check the 3 boxes of things that will matter for a narrative.
So you thinking the thing which I said has social impact, right?
Right. Like it could be like, what are some of the ways that it could improve, I don't know, access to underprivileged or something like that, like an impact, like a component that adds that element generally would be super helpful.
Yeah, you see, Lucy, just now, you just find out why Demi. Why Demi is excellent working with the STEM student, also business student.
Yep.
He has a lot of clients are in this field. Does not mean he doesn't have the ability. He has ability across the board, helping STEM students, sociology, anthropology, physics, chemistry, everything. But same time, just happen Demi has a lot of students come to him, our STEM or business, that two field, make him lot more experience in those fields. So have somebody coaching, he is able to have so much experience to connecting you, make sure your story are more compelling, more standing out, more unique. If you don't have a coach, if you do by yourself, you might not have the knowledge of doing that. So Lucy, I recommending you, if you don't have anyone yet, scan the barcode on the right-hand side, and me and Allison will be helping you connecting. At least you can have a conversation with them and see if it makes sense to you or not. We're not forcing you to do anything. But.
Yeah, something that I would mention, if you're working with Lumiere or with Ray, we're connected with both of them, obviously. So I also talk to them, right? So I know what's happening. I even have access to the Lumiere portal. I know when your student submits a new draft. I know what the notes are from the mentor. So even me, from the perspective of the narrative, I can help give my 2 cents about the research and how it helps with the narrative.
Have you ever helped a student which is very like in the Team US level, however, it's not recruitment students? Do you have any?
I have one who's likely going to be there for Taekwondo right now. I've had, and yeah, it's an interesting situation because you have to play a narrative carefully where you're showing enough of the time commitment, what it means to be an athlete at that level without the recruitment. It's definitely an interesting situation. What's the sport, if you don't mind me asking?
Skating.
Skating. Yeah. So yeah. I think it's an interesting area to deal with. I have done it, and I think it's one that it certainly changes the narrative a little bit when you have a high-level athlete at a sport that normally will not lead to recruitment. Definitely a very, very particular way of writing that narrative and those applications.
Okay, we can talk more, Lucy, if you're interested.
Sure.
Like I say, you can scan the barcode on the right-hand side.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, looking forward to talk to you more.
Yep.
Okay, next one for JJ.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. I have a 10th grader who is interested in writing, and she wants to apply for the Iowa writing program, but that one is so competitive. And so we just wonder, there is another one that seems to open like 6 weeks as opposed to 2 weeks residential, and open to a larger audience. And does that one help? Or even with the Kenya, there is a residential one and an online one. How does the online one different from the residential?
So the residential for both of them are the crown jewel of writing summer programs, the Iowa one in particular. So Iowa and Adroit are probably, the residential ones are the highest level. The online ones are still incredibly good and are still incredibly selective and are still great. both for Kenyan and for Iowa. The Iowa may be a little bit better than the Kenyan, but both are fantastic. Would completely recommend for a 10th grader. Probably if they're interested in writing, those could be some of the best options that they would have. There are other options, many of them residential, some of them online. So yeah, if we talk, I could give you like a bigger list of the ones that you could consider. But I would say for the question about like online Iowa and online Kenyan, thumbs up for both of them. I think they're great summer programs. I would totally recommend them for a 10th grader.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, JJ. And next one is Li Liang.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Sure. Hi, thank you so much for the for the presentation. This is really helpful. Now, my daughter is very interested in debate and also econ, but not finance. So, would you mind give some recommendations in terms of the summer programs that she can participate?
So out of curiosity here, so the economics and debate, is the interest in economics like political economy or
It's
more
micro.
Okay, micro.
I'm the big one, not a micro. I'm sorry about the pronunciation, but I'm a CRO. The
Macro.
microeconomics.
Okay,
yeah,
macroeconomics. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. All right. I mean, I would say the economics programs will definitely be a good option to go for. FTE, you know, the different programs in economics could be interesting options that will make sense. Macroeconomics is probably the biggest type of economics that you could potentially do. So even if there's no interest in finance, there will be some economics programs that could be interesting. Definitely in research. Many of the research-based summer programs have economics as an option, and they do academic economics as an option. So instead of finance, they will likely do micro or macro as potential options. So look for the different pathways in the research-based summer programs, because those will likely or always have economics as an option. And the economics that they're more inclined to do is academic economics, like the ones your student is interested in. So that would actually be perfect for her. Now, for the debate side, debate always matches with anything, really. So the debate, there's no debate summer program. What does she do? Lincoln Douglas, policy?
Public forum.
Public forum. Okay, so for PF, it's you know, I would say in general, it just makes sense. So if she does any summer program with debate, you know, whether it's Michigan or Berkeley's Lincoln Douglas. So the Michigan one, the 7-week Michigan one or something like that, then it would make sense. It would add to the narrative anyway. But my recommendation, and I know I'm always sending everyone to research, but I mean, I do think that research is generally what's going to make most sense in most cases. So like a research-based summer program in economics where the student has the opportunity to do academic economics is great, which is rare. A lot of the students who are interested in economics are more interested in some kind of like finance or applied economics or something like that. So having a more interest in traditional academic economics could be helpful for the student later on as well.
And sorry, if I may ask a follow-up question on this, when you say are any of the programs talked today has a more academic economics track per se, or you're more recommended we need to do the independent sort of like finding the independent research with the professor type of track?
They all do have an economics track.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, but if you can't find something or it doesn't work out, I would go independent. Yeah. Got
it. So any of the program you mentioned today, we do some research and see if they have an economic path or track there, and then pick that one. Yeah. Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Or
like
you could do the independent one as well and then tailor it.
Okay.
Yeah, we are able to help you connecting those independent research resources.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Next one for Jane. Jane Chen. I was going to read the chat box question, but I'm glad you raised your hand. So Jane, you can speak. Yeah.
Yeah. My kid is like rising 12th grader, and they surely went to UMich debate, a policy debate. Like, do you recommend her to go to debate camp again for the the rising 12 before the summer after 11th grade? Or you recommend something else? She's interested in pre-law.
Mm-hmm. Does she? What are the stats here? is it public forum? Are there any goal-based TLC policy?
Yeah.
And what are, like, did she already reach any benchmarks, like TLC qualification, things like that?
No, not yet. Like local, like AP, the ADL and OPL.
What's the goal? I think my question would be, if the goal is to get a bid to TLC next year so that we can show that in the application, then I think it might be worth doing another year of, the 7, and it would probably be the same one if it's policy. I would probably do again 7-week Michigan, because I mean it's intensive work in preparation for the next year. So I think it could make sense to do it. However, if we're not so sure if that's even attainable, or we don't think that's going to be a possibility, I would definitely not do it. So if the goal is not going to be go for a TLC bid, I would do debate in a more calm, relaxed way, and then focus a lot more there on another thing, like another summer program that might help more with the narrative building.
Yeah, like pre-law, like what kind of program,
well, pre-law is kind of tricky, but because there's no law major typically. There are some interdisciplinary majors that are that include some legal stuff with some schools. But if the interest is generally in like politics or policy or things like that, I would go for a program that has an element of that. Like going full law, pre-law training oftentimes doesn't pay off as well. I would go for something adjacent that there is a major for that. So again, policy, political science, political economy, whatever the interest may be. And if we don't have much of a narrative yet there, I would probably try to find something and secure it in those areas.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Jane. If you want to find out more information, obviously you can always continue. We will talk about those subjects in terms, in the future, graduate school to law degree. Okay, for under, it's really can be anything. Okay, now FZ, you're able to.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, this is Fiona. My child actually he is in 9th grade right now. He's really good at both STEM and humanities. My question is, so how does my child to choose the summer program? Because since he's a middle school, he got all the straight A's, and right now 9th grade, I just saw his report card, everything is 99%, 98. So right now both of us just kind of confused. We are not sure, because completely different directions. One is for non-STEM, one is for STEM. He just attends coding club and also MUN and mock trial. So actually every day he's pretty busy. So yeah, he really wants some summer program or see what kind of opportunities he wants to book or something.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would say they don't have, he doesn't have to make a choice, by the way. He doesn't have to choose between STEM or humanities. He could choose both. So, if he becomes interdisciplinary with both, he has an advantage, because most STEM students are not that good at the humanities, and most humanities students are not that good at STEM. So if he's good at both equally, I would say that's a superpower that he has. Combine it. But the program that he chooses this year, if he has an opportunity to do an interdisciplinary one that combines both, fantastic. But if he have to choose one, I would say have him choose whichever he finds more fun this year. So if he wants to try a little bit more of the STEM right now, do it. But what I will say, when the time comes for him to do research or to do a cornerstone project, make sure it's interdisciplinary. I think one big mistake would be to tell him, oh, you have to choose. It's either one or the other. I think if he's able to combine them both, he's going to have an advantage in the future as he's building a narrative and applying to college.
Okay, I see. You mean actually we need to see where he's interested, right? Because right now, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, if he ends up deciding that his interest is in, the digital social sciences and using coding in order to better understand historical phenomenon or political phenomenon, beautiful. He's able to apply his interest in coding and computer science into the social science, and that will give him a big help when the time comes and he applies to college. So I think encourage him to explore both, see what he likes most, and see what he wants to combine if he wants to combine. And that would
So
be
how to combine actually, because right now he's in TJ, and then everybody knows time is limited every day, and then he got a lot of things. However, I can see his passion, but he's pretty busy. He's just busy with this and with that, and I don't know. I'm not sure.
Demi knows. Demi know how to combine those beautifully. That's why he's so successful. If you working with a coach like Demi, he know how to combine this both strength into somebody more unique, more competitive.
Now, I would say if you're at a STEM school like TJ is, I would probably do outside more of the humanities things because you don't get a lot of the TJ has some great history teachers, but it's a very STEM school, so I would do a lot of the humanities things outside so that they can, the combination could be more fruitful. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Think about it. Yeah, think about it. We offer the opportunity, have a one-on-one that's free. Demi is able to talk to some of the potential interest family to see, how he able to help you. Okay. So next one, Lily. Yeah, Lily Wang.
Yes. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have a question for Demi. So I'm not sure if you heard about the MIT LaunchX summer program. So my question is this a good summer program? So it is worth to go there?
So a bit of a history lesson here. So LaunchX was an MIT program once upon a time. So it was a very, connected to the university program. They parted ways a little bit. And so LaunchX has become a little bit more of a standalone program that now happens in different campuses. And it's a good program, I would say. It's a great program because it has a lot of potential for a student to explore entrepreneurship and innovation. It adds elements of exploratory startup type of elements that are good, but it's not like the signature MIT summer programs. It is no RSI, it is no Beaverworks or something like that. The acceptance rates are a little bit higher now, and the tuition costs are much higher now. So it's an expensive program that I think could be worth it for the right student at the right time. I think if you do it at a younger age and the student is exploring with entrepreneurship and innovation, it's a good program. So I would recommend it for sure. I would say a lot of the Wharton ones I would prefer over LaunchX, depending on how hands-on the student wants to get. If the whole goal is to do like a project and be a little bit more hands-on, LaunchX would be a great option. If the option is to go for prestige and maybe like a little bit more in-depth knowledge of the field, I would probably go for some of the Wharton ones instead.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lily. Next one, maybe the last one is Richard. After Richard's question, one more. Okay, Richard, you go for it. We're going to see if Demi able to answer one more question. Richard, are you there, Richard?
Oh, it's me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. I have a quick question. So my daughter went through the UMass summer research program in a lab for 6 weeks the past summer. Now she's in 11th grade. So the professor invited her to go back again next summer. I just want to ask whether it's worthwhile to go back to the same lab for research, or should she spend some effort to apply more prestigious research program, or just simply get a summer job?
Yeah, great question. That's a beautiful question. So I would say it's really good to do the same program if it was upon invitation of the professor. There are a couple of reasons why. One, if that's going to be some of the main narrative, if the research that she does with the lab, with the professor, is part of her narrative, doing it for 2 years can be super helpful. The other thing is that she might get a great letter of rec from that person if they did 2 summers in a row. You know, there are definitely great benefits to that. And if it's an invitation, it's like, congratulations, you're already accepted into a summer program already. I would still probably apply to some of the other ones, you know, just to see what happens and see if, you know, one of them lands, and then we think about it after the offer is there, right? And determine which one is going to make more sense. In general, I would say we write about it a little bit differently in the application when there's like a second invitation for the next summer. But it's generally a very positive thing, and I would say that's not necessarily worse than doing a more prestigious summer program. It's not a non-prestigious summer program, by the way. It's a good summer program. So I would say the invitation and the potential for a letter of rec and the potential for narrative building could make an argument that that might be better than, you know, maybe some of the slightly more prestigious summer program. But again, I would still apply because you want to have the options and see what makes the most sense by the time that you get the offers.
Okay, thank you. What about just spend the summer working like in Six Flags or grocery store compared to that?
Yeah, no. So if you have to choose between the two, I would do research for sure, especially because it's gonna, I mean, summer jobs are great because sometimes the student gets, you know, experiences they wouldn't get otherwise. If they write about it in a very effective way, if they write about it as, hey, I needed to help my family, or if they had experiences there where they met, you know, people, and, you know, they could write great essays about it. The biggest issue with summer jobs is sometimes that the student has no control over the schedule or how many hours they're forced to work. And if in the summer they say, hey, 40 hours a week or 35 hours a week, then basically the summer is just working, and, you know, the narrative building components become really, really difficult. So I would say if she has power over how many hours she can invest in, you know, working a job, I think working a job can be really useful. At the same time, it can be pretty risky because it might stop basically everything else that is going on narrative-wise. So if it's only one or the other, I would go research. I mean, research is going to help a lot more with the narrative and things like that. There might be something that happens in the job that might help a lot more with the narrative, but it's a gamble. We don't know. It might be like a very boring thing where she's sitting there all day and, you know, nothing really happens. There's nothing to write about. There's nothing consequential. So that would be not super helpful. I mean, beyond the nice cash that she will make while doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you very much, Demi.
Okay, thank you, River. Last one. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. So Richard, you're the last one. Go ahead. Richard Z. Hello, are you there? Richard Z. Okay, calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. If you're not hear us, we are about closing tonight's. Thank you very, very much, Demi. Thank you. Allison, behind the scene, if you are interested to see how professional Demi is and how, you know, wisdom he's able to help your kids to have a better chance, okay? Without a consulting, definitely, a lot of times you don't even know what you're missing because we have a last minute come back to Demi. We have a last minute student come back to us, and Demi immediately able to spot what's missing, what's kind of type of doesn't have a cohesive nor very streamlined story. So you don't know what you don't know. And we're just hoping you're smart enough. It's a great investment, and you are able to scan the barcode on the right-hand side. So me and Allison will be able to follow up with you to help you schedule connecting with the Demi. And let me tell you, it's very worth your investment, totally. Okay, so again, thank everyone to stay with us, you know, late night. We still have 138 family, parents are with us and student with us. Thank you very much for your attention, and looking forward to, you know, have, you know, Happy New Year soon. Merry Christmas, everyone. And looking forward to see you 2025. Thanks again, Demi, for your wonderful presentation and your knowledge, your wisdom. And thank you for sharing. And thank you, Allison, again, for you behind the scenes, supporting us all the time. and everybody happy holiday.